In this episode, I'm with Lewis Howes, the GOAT of inspiring greatness.
In school, they don't teach us how to have meaningful relationships. Intimately, business, friends, family, they don't teach us the power of relationships. They don't teach us about our emotional, mental, and physical health, which is arguably the number one thing that we all need to be focusing on the most.
Right.
And the greatest of all time are committed to their vision. They don't focus on things that don't support their vision. But I would say the key thing that I've learned that I think is the most important thing was actually before I did any interviews, and it's when I first saw Tony Robbins in person. I think the theme that I've learned is that it doesn't matter what you say, it matters how you make people feel, and that's what people are going to remember, the way you made them feel. And I remember telling him that story when I'm interviewing him.
Everyone wants to be great, but only few actually get there. And I'm on a mission to find out what all the greatest have in common. I've traveled tirelessly to find, sit down, and talk with GOATs, people that are arguably the greatest of all time at what they do. Sales, marketing, advertising, business, podcasts, branding, you name it. The way they do things may be different, but they all seem to see the world the same way. To them, success is not only achievable, but inevitable. And we'll get inside their heads as they share their expertise with me each week. My name's Mike Arce, and this is The GOAT Show. This episode is sponsored by Agency G.O.A.T. Starting a digital agency was definitely one of the best decisions I've ever made. Building it, however, was a lot more challenging than expected. I always wish someone just gave me a roadmap that I could follow and let me be a fly on the wall at a successful agency so I could just see how it's all done. Agency G.O.A.T allows you to do just that. Stop playing small and visit agencygsd.com to learn how to help hundreds of clients get it to 7 figures and be extremely profitable along the way. Again, go to agencygsd.com. Also sponsored by Video Podcast Producers. A year ago, I never imagined sitting down and spending an hour with each GOAT that I interview on this show, whether it's Russell Brunson, Grant Cardone, Ken Shamrock, Lewis Howes, Ryan Dice, or the many others I've been able to sit down with. They didn't know who I was at the beginning of 2017, and to be able to sit down and learn from these guys and share it all with the world has been incredible. There is one secret behind how I got here, and that is video podcasting. So if your goal is to be an influencer in your industry, then this is definitely one of the fastest ways to get there. Check out Video Podcast Producers at startavideopodcast.com and become the influencer that you know you should be. Again, that's startavideopodcast.com. What's up, everybody? I'm Mike Arce, and welcome back to another episode of The GOAT Show, where we interview people that are arguably the greatest of all time at what they do. And right now, I'm here with Mr. Lewis Howes. What's up, man?
Good to see you, man. I'm jealous of your title. The GOAT Show is pretty cool.
The GOAT. I was looking for a show and a title, and it was actually a really hard thing to do. I don't know if you had challenges with your show. You have a big podcast. Did you have a hard time finding the title for yours?
It kind of just came to me, to be honest. I
Really?
was actually in traffic in LA, stuck in traffic. And I was also, it was a metaphor because I was kind of stuck in my life through a relationship, through my business I was in before. Things weren't working well in every area of my life. It looked like they were. I had achieved a lot of success financially. I'd achieved other marks and dreams that I wanted, but internally it was kind of stuck. And I remember that moment I was like, man, people are miserable around me in this traffic. People were just screaming and frustrated and upset, and I was feeling that as well. And I was like, there's got to be a way to reach people to give them some education and inspiration when they feel stuck in traffic or just stuck in their life.
Right.
And so I started calling a couple buddies because podcasting was like still not big. This was back in 2012.
Right.
Podcasting wasn't really well known at all, but I had a couple friends who were doing it, and I was like, maybe this podcasting thing where people like listen in the car.
Right.
Because I didn't really drive much. I came from New York City, so I was always in like the cabs or in the subway, and I was like, maybe people who are commuting all day, they would listen to something. Called a couple friends. They inspired me to do it. And I was like, I don't want to make it the Lewis Howes show, or I don't want it to be a business type of show, but what's something I could expand and make it broader? And I was really into learning and growth, but I was horrible in school. I was always terrible in the bottom of my class in school. But I was like, what's the type of school that I would want to attend? what's the thing that I would wish I could have had when I was in school?
Right.
It was like the school of greatness. I was like kind of going around different ideas, and I was like, oh, school of greatness, that sounds pretty cool. And I just stuck with it.
See, now when you hear it that way, even more, because that's awesome. It's true. There's a lot of things that I think as we start growing older as adults, we realize that some of the greats have and learn, but school doesn't teach you that stuff. And greatness, as you start hanging out with people that have achieved greatness, you learn that they all have certain things in common.
Yes.
And you had Brendan Burchard recently on your show, and he talked a lot about that too.
Yep.
So you are on the show because to me and to our team here, you are arguably the GOAT of inspiring greatness, which perfectly aligns with the book you wrote, School of Greatness, and the podcast. And now you have another book, right? So what's this book?
This book's called The Mask of Masculinity. And, I appreciate you thinking I'm the GOAT of greatness, inspiring greatness. Because for me, I'm always trying to learn myself and how I can become better. Mm-hmm. So my goal was to find the greatest mentors in the world to teach me how to become a better human being, and then spread that message with everyone else. And again, in school, they don't teach us how to have meaningful relationships, intimately, business, friends, family. They don't teach us the power of relationships. They don't teach us about our emotional, mental, and physical health, which is arguably the number one thing that we all need to be focusing on the most.
Right.
Because it doesn't matter how much money you have if your health is not in integrity to your vision. They don't talk to us about spirituality and connecting to our vision and our purpose and our mission for life in school.
Right.
They don't talk to us about finances. Even if you take a finance class, you don't learn how to make money. You don't learn how to invest fully.
Right.
You might learn like accounting and bookkeeping, but you're not teaching you abundance.
Right.
And so these kind of different categories of life that we don't learn about in school, I was like, I need to find the greatest people to talk about this in my podcast. And in my book, my last book, I kind of talked about the common principles that everyone uses to achieve greatness in their life. And this book, just to talk about it, is about really deepening what it means to be a great man and to be a great human through loving vulnerability, through opening up, allowing other people to see who you are, as opposed to putting on this false sense of masculinity that is toxic in the world. So it's another deeper angle on inspiring greatness.
Now, in a video, or I think it was an audio actually, I was listening to it in my car, you said to be a great man, it was bold, wise, was it virtuous?
Virtuous, wise, and bold, I believe it was, yes.
Yeah.
It was a quote from Confucius, yeah. So,
that was a good little audio track that you had there. It was about 5-6 minutes or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. And, as this book is coming out, I'm just trying to have the conversation more and more, with the domestic abuse that constantly happens with professional athletes that you hear about, domestic abuse and violence, with the racial marches that are happening in the world right now. It just blows my mind that this is still happening. Something like Charlottesville, with the sexual harassment and sexual abuse that we're hearing about in Hollywood lately, with all the executives who are now, all these women are coming about that happening, with the the mass killings and bombings that are happening from Vegas to Manchester to all these other places, to the political disconnection that's happening, where it's aggressiveness and protectiveness and anger, division, needing to be right, needing to win, with the environmental abuse. Like all these things that are happening just in the last 6 months alone in the media. It's 95% of it outside of natural disasters is talking about these things that are happening in the world, and it's stemming from men who are hurt and who are projecting a false sense of masculinity. If you talk about all these instances I just talked about, men are leading those things. Men are leading the violence, the anger, the rage, the protective. Let's build walls. Literally, we're building walls in the world to protect something that is fake. That is an insecurity, a fear that we don't need to. Right. When we can embrace each other and connect and literally take off the walls, take off the masks that allow us to see each other in a clearer way. Right. And when we can see each other, we can trust each other. When you open up and share something with me that's really sensitive to you, or that's really a fear of yours, something that's you're insecure about, or something you're just struggling with in your life, I'm gonna say, you know what? I trust that guy a little bit more because he's willing to go there with me. Yeah. It's when you don't share things with me. It's when you hide behind these masks. It's when you try to act perfect all the time or like you're always got it together. I can't really relate to you or connect to you.
Right.
So I'm gonna feel a little bit like, what's he hiding?
Right.
What's beneath that? What's like in the way? And there's always gonna be like a distance between us. Like you're always gonna be pushing me aside. You can say, come here, but I'm never gonna fully let you see me.
Right.
And that, I believe, is not a way to live a great life. And so part of me was, I've been my whole life living with masks. You know, as a man with wanting to be a great athlete, wanting to make a lot of money, wanting to get the girls, I lived with these masks to try to fulfill a need, a void that I didn't have.
What do you think it was?
For me, it was always acceptance. I wanted to feel like I fit in, and I was always picked on, bullied. I was picked last in elementary school. I was in the bottom of my class in the special needs classes, and I just wanted friends. I wanted people to accept me for who I was. But they didn't accept me, and they made fun of me, so I started to wear a mask to fit in, so they would see that I was valuable or worthy of their friendship or acceptance. I think that's what a lot of kids do in general. You know, when a mom says, you know, go to school with an open heart and be kind to the kids and be friendly and be nice, and then the young boy does that, and someone's making fun of a couple of the kids. He's like, hey, you shouldn't do that. You should be nice to that kid. And then they shove that kid in the locker for trying to like be nice. He's like, oh, that doesn't work. I don't have friends when I do this. So let me put up a mask and act cool to fit in. And you know, this continues to build over time, and we just forget it.
It becomes habit.
It becomes part of who you are.
Yeah.
It becomes part of who you are until you're aware, until you're like, wow, I've been living this way my entire life or for so many years. And here's the thing, there's a reward for wearing masks. There's a reward that I had for being so driven to win at all costs as an athlete. I won. It was a great reward. I won. The price I paid was when I lost, I was like the worst human being to be around because my identity was now at stake. If I lost, I wasn't worthy of acceptance. I wasn't good enough. And so I was driven to get bigger, faster, stronger so that I would never lose. And then I would never lose in an argument. And I would never lose in my relationship because I was always needing to be right and to win. And so everything was like a defense. You know, I felt like everyone was attacking me always. So I always had to get bigger, faster, stronger, more intelligent, make more to prove my worthiness. So I just felt very empty inside when I would achieve those things. I was like angrier when I would achieve the things I wanted. And I didn't understand why. And so the first thing is to be aware. Like why are we so passionate about certain things in our life? And does it bring us true fulfillment, or do we feel we have a weight still on our shoulders? Do we feel like a sense of pressure, tightness, anxiety, stress, fear, insecurity? If we feel those things, then something is off. And if we're driven to try to, I don't know, eliminate those things, but they're still coming up for us, something is off. And I think the ultimate man is the man who has inner peace and who can live in service and who can fully be himself.
Now it's a thing, you don't know what you don't know.
Exactly.
So there's a lot of people
challenging.
that, like you said, that 7-year-old kid, 8-year-old kid, he puts on the mask because he learns that that's what gives him safety. That's what gives him more comfort than before. And then it becomes a part of him. So it's not like he's choosing between awakened and mask. He doesn't know. So for you, how did that even happen? What was the switch?
It's really tough because we need some type of catalyst in our life for us to wake up or to be aware. Otherwise, because for my teens and my 20s, I was achieving more than anyone else around me. And when people would give me feedback, I'd be like, I'm not going to listen to you because what I'm doing works. I'm getting results. I'm making more than you. I'm achieving more than you. Like, don't tell me what to do. I would get more defensive. Because I was like, you have zero credibility in my mind unless you're getting more results than me. And so it wasn't until, but I was always suffering inside. Like different things would happen and I didn't know how to let them go. I didn't know how to forgive people. I didn't know how to let go of grudges, whatever it may be. And it wasn't until I had and usually people have a bad breakup, a divorce, a near-death experience, someone close to them dies, or they have a major sickness that makes them think, makes them wake up. They have something that is a catalyst. For me, I went through a really bad toxic relationship for 8 months, just up and down, that I didn't know how to end. I couldn't get out of it emotionally. I didn't have the communicational skills to end it. And so I stayed in this toxic relationship, always like looking to please my partner. And I was afraid because the intimacy we had was so powerful. I'd never experienced any type of intimacy like it. But it would only last for like a few minutes, you know, every now and then. And so I was always like, well, I'm never gonna have that intimacy again. If I leave, will I ever have that intimacy?
Because we don't see the next thing yet, so we don't think it's there.
Absolutely. And I was like, I've never felt this much passion and intimacy before, so I'm afraid maybe I won't have this again.
Right.
And it took me I constantly got angrier and angrier at the world. And I would go play basketball to kind of get my aggression out. And I was always just like defensive and angry. I started shoving kids and just yelling back at people if they started trash talking, always trying to defend myself, until one day I was a little too aggressive and someone headbutted me and I flipped out. I went Hulk on this guy and literally like UFC pummeled him in the ground, blood everywhere, huge gash over his face. And I look at him after someone pulls me off of him and I'm like, what did I just do? Like everything is at stake for me right now. What did I just do? The police station is right across the street. This guy, who knows, he could have a knife. Someone else could be doing something around here. I could have hurt myself. I could go to jail. Even though he hit me first, it was like, look at him. Like he could, who knows what could have happened. I was like, I could have risked everything for a stupid fight because my ego got hurt.
Right.
And I didn't have the emotional skills to just diffuse the situation or step away or not react like a little child. You know what I mean? So I realized, wow, my life isn't working the way I thought it was. I'm getting results, but I'm also paying massive prices for how I show up in a lot of ways. And so I just started doing a deep dive in everything that ever upset me. I started writing down all the things I was hurt by, frustrated with, angry with, held resentment to.
How'd you get that idea? That's
people,
not something
I think
somebody
that,
just starts
that
doing.
fight, a lot of friends started like just saying, Lewis, you need like help. You know, they were like, this relationship is toxic. I was sitting in my apartment for like weeks on end. I wouldn't leave sometimes. I was just so like depressed that my friends were starting to get worried of me. So they were like, you just need some help. And I think I just had, it's kind of like when you're sick and tired of being sick and tired for so long, you're like, okay, I got to do something.
Right.
I finally had that moment after months and months of this toxicity. I was like, all right, that fight kind of woke me up a little bit to be like, what do I need to address? What am I unwilling to look at that I've been denying for so long? And I started to go down that, I started doing therapy, I hired coaches, I went to emotional intelligence workshops, I tried it all. I was like, I'm in a discovery mode. I'm gonna get feedback and see what makes sense and try to drop my guard. And it still, even though I was open to that, I still was like, you know, I know all this stuff. I teach all this stuff. And it took me like some deeper instances in some workshops to where I finally opened up about being sexually abused, about, you know, being raped by a man when I was 5, about, you know, and I never told anyone this. I never opened up about it. And I was like, why have I never talked about these things? Why have I been so afraid to let people see me for what's happened or what I've done or what I'm ashamed of or what I'm insecure about? How come I don't want people to know this about me? And when I started to share with others about who I was and things I've been through, it was terrifying because I was like, I don't think people are going to accept me. I don't think they're going to still like me.
You're already thinking, I'm getting judged right now.
Yeah, I was like, people aren't going to like me. They're not going to accept me. It's going to hurt my business. It's going to hurt my friendships, my family. If they knew these things about me, they wouldn't love me.
Right.
And I got the courage to finally start talking about it to my friends, my family. It was the craziest thing that ever happened. People were like, man, I've judged you this whole time, but now I feel like I understand you, and I feel like I can trust you. And other people started opening up about them being sexually abused and never telling anyone, or them having an experience different that they were ashamed of. And they finally started to open up to me about these things because I was opening up to them. It was like my friendships, my family relationships were so much deeper and stronger because we could finally see each other. And we removed the masks and started just having conversations about our fears, our insecurities, the things that were holding us back. And at the same time, it was like, wow, this weight off my shoulders. You know, I felt this pressure and kind of this weight of the world on my shoulders and my chest for so long that now I didn't feel like people still liked me, you know, when they knew this about me. And I kind of like related to my gay friends who, for years, they didn't feel like they could open up about being gay in the world. And then they finally told their parents at 30 or 25, and it was like this weight came off their shoulders because they could actually be who they are.
Right.
And people accept them or they don't, but they feel this weight off their shoulders by revealing their truest selves. And we are unable to achieve greatness at anything fully until we step into who we fully are. Because think about it, the only way to be great at anything, the greatest of all time, they get into flow. And if you're tight and have pressure on your shoulder, your chest, or anxiety and stress, you're unable to be present in the moment to get in the flow.
Right.
So it's a forced action of getting there.
Inauthentic.
It's just forced. Every day you're forcing something to be great as opposed to allowing and flowing with it. And so again, I'm not perfect and I still have anxieties and stresses and frustrations and anger and hold on to grudges. But when it happens, I'm aware of it. I breathe, I go through a process, I allow myself to let it go, and I recommit to my vision. And that's what great people do. They're so clear on their vision. They put their energy and focus on that, as opposed to, this person cut me off on the road, I'm gonna spend an hour being angry about this one thing and trying to like get out of my car and fight this person and flip them off and put this energy into a negative experience, as opposed to, well, that was interesting and let me get back to my vision.
Right.
Like, why put any focus or attention on anything that's not your vision?
Right. That's a really great point. And
But we do that so much, and I'm guilty. The reason I wrote this is because it's a reminder to hold myself accountable.
Well, but you got to remember too, I got a lot of similarities to this, and I'm relating to it a lot. While you're talking, I'm like, man, that's kind of crazy hearing it all. But for, 25 years, daily habits building on the wrong things.
It's hard to break it, man.
It's hard to break it, and then it's easy to regress if familiarity of the old things bring you back, right?
Absolutely.
But when you hang out with people like this, like you do, right? You have your show. You've created a doorway to be able to hang out with people that are focused on their visions.
Absolutely.
And be able to get that, I guess, contagiously. I don't know if that's a word,
yeah.
but be able to just keep getting that and keep getting those reminders, so that these are the things reminding you of the next 10 years as opposed to the first 25.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm daily conditioning myself. Even a few days ago, I got in a defensive, guarded moment for a couple hours where I felt attacked by someone that I trusted with something and felt like he dropped the ball in a major way. And so I'm texting, like text raging with this person, right? Like, but you did this, and like just always had me being defensive. And I noticed like I was shortening my breath, I was tight, I was tense, I was stressed out of my heart.
Familiarities.
And I was like, okay, I'm not getting the result I want by being angry right now. So it took a couple hours for me to be aware of it. So I lost energy and focus on something positive. But as opposed to it consuming my whole week like it used to, or the whole next couple of days where I had this residual stress and frustration holding on to this, I put my phone down and I took a walk for an hour and said, okay, how fitting is this that I'm writing a book about masculine vulnerability, and here I am being angry in a moment, and here I am being a hypocrite. So as opposed to making myself wrong, because I'm going to be out of integrity the rest of my life at some point, be aware of it, congratulate myself on stopping. Now let's commit to something more meaningful moving forward.
Right.
And every morning I try to focus on, okay, if setting up scenarios in my mind for the day, if someone cuts me off, if someone texts me something nasty, if someone tweets me a negative thing, if my girlfriend says something that triggers me, do I want to react with frustration and anger and put up a wall, or do I want to respond in a loving or calm way?
Right.
And I just put myself through these scenarios. I visualize like, okay, if something happens, how can I respond?
Right.
And it's a practice daily. And at the end of the day, I rate myself on a scale of 1 to 10, how did I do today? Did I show up fully for my vision, or do I allow things to get in the way and focus on those things? Mm-hmm. And the greatest of all time are committed to their vision. They don't focus on things that don't support their vision.
Now, as a person that's been mentored and coached and been able to get great ideas from other people, have you found that you started mentoring others naturally as well?
Yeah, I mean, I never saw myself as an expert, but I guess when you're doing something every day for 5 to 10 years, mm-hmm. people start asking me questions as well. So I do my best, but I try to give other people the spotlight the best way that I can.
Yeah.
And I think when you don't make it about you all the time, mm-hmm. People appreciate and respect that more. So.
And the easiest way to be interesting is to be interested.
Absolutely.
Right, and that's
ask questions.
Ask questions, listen, active listen. One thing that I've learned from a few people that I just kind of saw similarities of where they are now to where I was 5-10 years ago. I'm sure you've bumped into it. When I help them and I kind of guide them on things that I know I had to go through, it's also a mental reminder to myself, like a fundamental reminder on things that I realize, I don't think I'm doing that like I used to anymore.
Yeah.
You ever have that at all?
Absolutely. I mean, we get to practice what we preach. We can't just preach and say, go do this thing. If we say that, then we got to be following through on as well.
Right.
So that's why for me, I write about, I interview, I bring people on the topics that I need the most mm-hmm. reminder with, or I'm looking to grow in. And it holds me accountable. Mm-hmm. It holds me accountable because I get to talk about my flaws or my insecurities or the things that are not working for me that well. And then if I'm writing a book, then I'm saying, okay, I'm somewhat of an expert or a curator or a facilitator, so I get to live up to that. Right. So I talk about, I was raging, texting the other day, and it reminds me like how fitting. I'm writing a book about vulnerability. I get to practice this.
Right.
So.
If you could interview any one person that you haven't interviewed yet, who would it be?
The Rock, Will Smith, and Jim Carrey.
Oh, the three people, so mm-hmm. The Rock, Will Smith, and Jim Carrey. You guys heard this.
Yes.
Hook them up. Rock, Will Smith, Jim Carrey.
This is a quote from The Rock to call him into my studio.
Really?
It's on my wall.
Okay.
And I text his publicist every single month for the last 3.5 years.
Really?
And figure out every angle that I can. Like where I can go, any moment, anything. Jim Carrey, I'm, in contact with his publicist. So I'm like constantly in contact.
Have you seen the art that he's done in Vegas and stuff?
Yeah, it's amazing.
He's incredible. And then the other one is who?
Will Smith.
Will Smith is great.
Yeah.
Have you seen that? It was like a 9-minute video on inspiration by Will Smith. It was like 9 minutes long.
I should watch it.
Series.
I've seen a ton of stuff of his, but yeah.
His mindset's incredible.
I think he's powerful, yeah. So those three guys I would love to get.
Okay.
I mean, obviously Oprah and Barack and all these other people too, but those three I've wanted from the beginning.
Really?
Yeah.
Of all the interviews that you've done, obviously you've probably enjoyed them all in their own unique way, but out of all of them, which one was the one that stands out as, man, I didn't want that one to end?
Rob Bell is a pretty powerful individual.
Really?
I don't even, where is he up here? I'm not even sure if he's up here, but I've had him on a few times. He is kind of like my spiritual, like, I don't know, spirit animal, I guess. He's like, just so like loving and joyful and passionate and non-judgmental mm-hmm. about who people are. And just, he's kind of like a spiritual compass for me. Mm-hmm. Whenever I'm around him, I just feel like I'm a better human being. So his ideas, his philosophy about spirituality really opens me up and makes me think and ask myself, how can I be better?
That's cool.
Yeah.
Now, of all the things you've learned from all these people, I've seen people just share really great routines that they have and tricks that they do in order to mm-hmm. get better and be great. Is there any one routine or any one hack or any one thing that you started and you were like, I'm doing this, and you've done it for a long time? You've hung on to it.
Meditation has been a key. I started meditating back when I was 19.
Okay.
18, 19. I can't remember. I was a freshman in college. I can't remember how old is specifically when, and I was doing it before like everyone was talking about it in the last few years. And within 6 months after meditating, I broke a world record. I was like the second leading receiver in the country. And just everything in my life was performing well. So I was like, I'm onto something.
So how do you meditate? What's your, like, is it a 20-minute thing?
I've done a lot of different types of meditation. So I wouldn't say one meditation is the right way. Okay. I would say be open to learning all styles.
Okay.
And find something that works for you and then continue learning. Because I learned something 12 years ago or whatever, 14 years ago, and have done many different styles of meditation since. And even just HEADSPACE, an app on the iPhone, is very powerful. It's 5-10 minute meditations that are extremely good, that I used for like a year and a half. And then I went to India and just wanted to deepen my practice even more to become a certified meditation instructor.
Wow.
So I wanted to learn it on how to teach it so I could understand it even better in my brain and my body and my soul and the breath. So I'm always just trying to take a little bit of things from everything and make it my own to add to what I'm already doing. But I would say, so meditation is a habit that a lot of the high performers do. And I think just finding time to be aware and to breathe and to relax your mind, doesn't matter if you set like it's meditation or you just relax your mind and breathe and focus on what you're grateful for and your vision. I think that's important, whether you call it meditation, prayer, whatever you want to call it, because otherwise we're just constantly in motion, reactive, taking actions, and we're not getting clear on our vision. So every single day, be clear on your vision and your intention. But I would say the key thing that I've learned that I think is the most important thing was actually before I did any interviews. And it's when I first saw Tony Robbins in person. I was 16, I was at a conference that he was hosting in St. Louis, Missouri, and there's probably 15,000 people there. This is back when he used to do like speaker series. It'd be like a 3 or 4 day thing, and he'd bring in all these like world-class athletes. Actually, Donald Trump was there, and Larry King, and just different coaches, Super Bowl champions. And he came down the stage at one point, and I was sitting about halfway back in this kind of big arena, so called like 50 yards back or whatever, and he walked down the stage, down the aisle, and I just happened to be sitting in the aisle halfway back in the arena. And he was walking towards me, and I was like, oh, he's walking towards me, he's gonna walk past me. And he stopped right next to me about this far away. And I can't remember what he was saying, something about success or mindset or whatever it may be.
Sounds about right.
Yeah, I can't remember what it was, but his presence, he didn't look at me either. He was kind of looking out, just beyond me and over me, just this far away, just kind of like above me. Just like his vision that was embedded in his soul made me feel a certain way. Wow. And so I think the theme that I've learned, and that moment that has also been the theme throughout my whole interview series, is that it doesn't matter what you say. It matters how you make people feel, and that's what people are going to remember, the way you made them feel. And I remember telling him that story when I'm interviewing him. I was like, you made me feel a certain way. And I can't remember the words you were saying, or I can't remember what anyone said actually that whole event, but I remember the way you made me feel. And it set me into a new trajectory for my life to have that confidence in myself. And so I think if we can remember that, it doesn't matter how smart we are, how much we know, how funny we are, or whatever, the way we make people feel is how they're going to remember us.
Right.
And the way we make people feel in our interactions, our speeches, our videos, or episodes, whatever it is, that's what's going to get people to take action and get people to shift their life if you're looking for that to happen.
So as the GOAT of inspiring greatness, you wrote a book about it, and you went deeper and you wrote another book on something meaningful to you. You have a podcast called School of Greatness, but you also have this event that, correct me if I'm wrong, but you sold more tickets in one day for the next year than you did in the previous one because of the success and what people were seeing in the first one. So I guess just tell me about that, because I want to hear the numbers again, because it was kind of crazy.
Yeah. Summit of Greatness. We did our second annual this year, about a month ago. And I think we had about 850 people show up this year. We sold 925 tickets for next year. And I gave people a 24-hour window. I said, hey guys, I'm going to give you a discount, like an early bird discount, and 24 hours only. If you thought this was a powerful experience, just wait till next year. And we create an experience that you can't find anywhere else. Not saying that other events aren't as good or whatever, we're just different. And we try to create that culture and that community. People flying from all over the world. And so, yeah, it's fun, it's exciting, and I'm always dreaming bigger. So we said, listen, we've already sold out this theater. We need a bigger theater, 2,700 tickets we need to sell. So if you're gonna buy one, buy two. Buy one for your friend. If you're gonna buy two, bring 4 people, bring your team. So people just were signing up, and people are still signing up, but bringing their whole team for
I'm signing up right after this.
It's gonna be fun.
That doesn't happen, right? You don't sign up you don't outsell the year.
A year before the event happens. Yeah, usually people sell their tickets 3 months before. Most of the bulk of their tickets, because people aren't sure about the dates and this and that. But again, when I think you focus on giving people a feeling, they may not remember anything that I said or the speakers said, but they remember the way they felt.
Right.
And they're like, I want to feel this again. And this was so special and so different that I'm willing to invest now for a year from now. And I think that's what we should be doing in any aspect of our business, is creating an experience that gives people a feeling. We're always trying to improve our customer support and our products and our delivery of things, and we make mistakes all the time as a company. But it's like when we can become intentional about every post, every interaction, leaving a feeling behind, that's going to be transformational.
That's awesome. Guys, we just spent a good amount of time with the GOAT here. But before we sign off, I want to make sure you have 3 things on your agenda. Number 1, get a hold of The Rock, Jim Carrey, and Will Smith.
Yes.
And get them connected with Lewis.
Do it.
Number 2, get the book, The Mask of Masculinity. And if you haven't bought the last book, School of Greatness, get that too, because that one's incredible. And number 3, join me at the Summit of Greatness.
Summit of Greatness 2018.
Summit of Greatness. And when is that? October what?
October 3rd through the 6th, summitofgreatness.com.
3 things on your agenda, guys, just bumped up to the top of your to-do list for the day. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening. Thanks for coming on the show, man. I really appreciate it. And we will see you guys next week.
Thanks for joining us today. If you like this episode, subscribe to our YouTube channel or find our podcast on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, or wherever your favorite place to listen to podcasts might be. And if you really like this episode, please leave a review for us on iTunes. Thanks, and we'll see you next week.